A solo founder just shipped a complete inventory management system in 72 hours. No engineering team, no contractors, no bootcamp, just Claude 3.7, Cursor, and a very specific workflow I'm about to show you. And here's what's wild. 6 months ago, this same founder couldn't write a single line of Python. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the autocoder stack is letting tiny teams punch way above their weight class, and why the $50,000 contractor invoice might be a relic of the past. But first, let me tell you what this video is not. This isn't a coding tutorial. I'm not going to teach you JavaScript syntax or explain what a function is. There are 1,000 channels for that. What I'm going to show you is something far more valuable: the strategic framework for treating AI as a semi-autonomous coding partner. One that lets business people, operators, and tiny teams ship real internal tools without becoming full-time developers. Here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in tech wants to admit. Most internal tools don't need a senior engineer. They need someone who understands the problem deeply and can communicate clearly with an AI that writes better code than 80% of junior developers. That's not hype. That's just math. Claude 3.7 Sonnet, released February 24, 2025, now solves 62.3% of agentic coding tasks on SWE Bench. For context, this benchmark tests whether an AI can take a real GitHub issue and actually fix it autonomously. Not toy problems, real production bugs. 62.3% puts it ahead of every other model at launch. And when you pair it with Cursor, the AI native code editor that raised $100 million at a $2.5 billion valuation, you get something that feels less like a tool and more like a junior developer who never sleeps, never complains, and works at the speed of thought. Now let's talk about what makes this combination different from just asking ChatGPT to write some code. Because that approach, it works until it doesn't. Copy-pasting code snippets from a chat window is like trying to build a house by printing individual bricks from a website. Technically possible, practically insane. Cursor changes the game because it's not a chat window. It's a full development environment, forked from VS Code, which means it has all the extensions, all the familiarity, but with Claude 3.7 integrated directly into the DNA of how you work. And here's the first secret that separates people who successfully ship with AI from people who just play with it. Context is everything. See, Claude 3.7 supports a 200,000 token context window. That's roughly 150,000 words. That's an entire codebase. That's all your documentation. That's your database schema, your API specs, your business logic, all held in the model's working memory simultaneously. Most people don't realize what this means. They ask Claude to write a function in isolation, get something generic, and then wonder why it doesn't fit their project. But when Cursor feeds Claude your entire project context, every file, every configuration, every comment you've written, suddenly the AI isn't guessing. It's understanding. It sees how your pieces connect. It knows your naming conventions. It writes code that actually belongs in your codebase. This is the difference between a contractor who read a one-paragraph brief and a team member who's been embedded in your company for months. Now, let me walk you through the actual workflow, because theory is worthless without execution. The centerpiece of Cursor is something called Composer, and this is where the magic happens. Composer lets you describe what you want in plain English, not pseudocode, not technical specifications, just what you're trying to accomplish. Let me give you a real example. Say you're running a small e-commerce operation and you need an internal dashboard to track returns. Before this stack existed, you had 3 options. Option 1, learn to code yourself. Timeline, 6 months minimum to build anything useful. And that's if you have time to dedicate. Option 2, hire a developer. According to Clutch.co's 2024 survey, small businesses spend between $50,000 and $200,000 annually when outsourcing custom software. For a returns dashboard, you're looking at $10,000 minimum, plus ongoing maintenance. Option 3, the one that didn't exist until recently, open Cursor, connect it to Claude 3.7 and type. Create a returns tracking dashboard that connects to our Shopify API, shows daily return volume, identifies products with high return rates, and flags potential fraud patterns based on customer history. One prompt. And here's what happens next. Claude doesn't just write one file. It thinks across your entire project. It creates the database schema, the API routes, the front-end components, the authentication layer, the error handling, all coordinated, all coherent. And because Cursor understands your existing codebase, those .cursor rules files I'll explain in a minute, the generated code follows your patterns, your style, your architecture. GitHub's 2024 Octoverse report found developers using AI assistants complete tasks 55% faster. But here's what that statistic misses. For non-developers shipping internal tools, the speed increase isn't 55%. It's infinite. You go from impossible to done by Friday. Okay, pattern interrupt time. I need to be honest with you about something. Everything I just described sounds incredible. And it is incredible. But if you try this workflow without understanding its limitations, you will fail. Publicly, embarrassingly, Claude 3.7 is not magic. It's a pattern recognition engine with extraordinary capabilities. But it can hallucinate. It can make architectural decisions that seem brilliant on day 1 and become unmaintainable nightmares by month 3. It can write code that works perfectly in isolation and catastrophically in production. So let me tell you how the people successfully using this stack avoid those traps. I call it the autocoder framework, and it has 4 non-negotiable principles. Principle 1. Start small, verify fast. Never let Claude write more than one component before you test it. I don't care how confident the code looks. I don't care how clean the syntax appears. Until you've run it, click through it, try to break it. You don't know if it works. The people who fail with this stack ask Claude to build an entire application, get 2,000 lines of code, and then try to debug the whole thing when it doesn't work. That's not AI-assisted development. That's AI-generated chaos. The people who succeed build one feature at a time. Test it, verify it, then ask for the next piece. Small iterations compound into robust systems. Massive deployments compound into massive failures. Principle 2. Use extended thinking for architecture, not implementation. Claude 3.7 has this powerful feature called extended thinking mode. It literally shows you the model's reasoning process before giving you an answer. For complex problems, this is gold. But here's where most people go wrong. They turn on extended thinking for everything. Every function, every variable name, every minor edit. This is like asking your most senior architect to decide which brand of sticky notes to buy. It's wasteful and it slows you down. Use extended thinking when you're making structural decisions. What's the best architecture for handling real-time inventory updates? That deserves extended thinking. Write a function to format this date. That doesn't. The model scores 70.3% on TU Bench. That's a benchmark for AI agents handling real enterprise scenarios like CRM systems and complex workflows. But that performance comes from knowing when to think deeply, not thinking deeply about everything. Principle 3. Embrace agent mode for iteration, not initiation. Cursor's agent mode is terrifying and wonderful. It lets Claude autonomously run terminal commands, create files, browse documentation, and iterate on errors without you touching the keyboard. First time I saw it in action, I felt like I was watching the future boot up. The AI would hit an error, read the error message, Google a solution, apply a fix, and try again, all by itself. But, and this is critical, agent mode works best when it's iterating on something you already built, not creating from scratch. Let it fix your bugs. Let it optimize your queries. Let it refactor your code. But don't let it architect your system without supervision. This is the difference between having an autonomous assistant and having an autonomous decision maker. One helps you move faster. The other might drive your car off a cliff while you're not looking. Principle 4. Create your .cursor rules file before you write a single line of code. This is the most underutilized feature in the entire stack. Cursor supports configuration files that tell Claude how to behave in your specific project. Your naming conventions, your error handling patterns, your security requirements, your preferred libraries. Most people skip this because it feels like overhead. They're excited to start building. They don't want to write rules. This is exactly why their AI-generated code feels generic. Spend 30 minutes writing clear rules before you start. Tell Claude, in this project, we always use TypeScript strict mode. We always handle errors with this pattern. We always include logging on API endpoints. We always validate input with this library. Now, every piece of code Claude generates follows your standards. It's not generic anymore. It's specifically yours. Okay, let's talk about what you can actually build with this stack. Because abstract principles only matter if they translate to real outcomes. Here's what I've seen tiny teams ship in the last 6 months. Inventory management systems, customer support ticket routers, automated reporting dashboards, data migration pipelines, internal communication bots, employee onboarding portals, vendor management tools, approval workflow systems. Notice something? None of these are consumer-facing products. None of these need to scale to millions of users. None of these require cutting-edge performance optimization. They're internal tools. They need to work reliably for tens or hundreds of people. They need to be good enough, not perfect. And this is where the autocoder stack absolutely dominates. Because the biggest cost in internal tools isn't building them. It's the opportunity cost of not having them. Every day your team spends manually processing returns, updating spreadsheets, copying data between systems. That's labor that could be automated. That's cognitive load that could be eliminated. That's frustration that compounds into turnover. A $20 per month Cursor subscription gets you 500 fast requests on premium models like Claude 3.7 Sonnet, with unlimited slower requests on top of that. For $20, you're not hiring a developer. You're hiring a capability. Now, here's the question I know some of you are asking. I don't even know where to start. I've never touched code. Is this actually realistic for me? And my honest answer is, maybe, depending on one factor. Not intelligence, not technical aptitude, not even available time. The factor is this: can you describe what you want precisely? Because Claude doesn't struggle with hard coding problems. It struggles with ambiguous requirements. When you say, build me a dashboard, you get a generic dashboard. When you say, build me a dashboard that shows these 5 specific metrics, pulls from this exact data source, updates every 15 minutes, and sends an alert to Slack when this metric exceeds this threshold, you get exactly what you need. The skill you need isn't coding. It's specification. It's learning to describe your requirements with enough precision that a very capable but very literal AI can execute on them. And here's the good news. This is actually easier for non-technical people than it sounds. Because you understand your business problems better than any developer ever will. You know the edge cases because you've lived them. You know the priorities because you felt the pain. A senior developer might spend a week understanding your domain before writing code. You already have that knowledge. You just need to learn how to express it in a way that Claude can act on. Let me give you a practical example of the full workflow. Say you manage customer support for a small SaaS company. You're drowning in tickets. You notice that 40% of tickets are asking the same 5 questions. You want to build an AI assistant that handles those common questions automatically, escalating only the complex stuff to humans. Old world. You hire a developer. You write requirements documents. You have 16 meetings. You wait 3 months. You pay $30,000. Maybe it works. New world. You open Cursor. You spend 2 hours describing exactly what you want. You describe your 5 common questions. You describe what good answers look like. You describe when to escalate. You describe how to connect to your existing ticket system. Claude generates the system. You test it. You find problems. You describe the problems. Claude fixes them. You test again. You iterate. 3 days later, you have a working prototype. A week later, you have a production system. Total cost, $20 for Cursor, maybe $5 in API calls if you exceeded your included requests. Now, is this system as elegant as what a senior engineer would build? Probably not. Will it scale to handle 10,000 tickets per second? Definitely not. But for your 40-person company handling 100 tickets a day, it works. It's reliable. It exists. And you build it yourself. There's a psychological shift that happens when non-technical founders realize they can build their own tools. It's not just about saving money. It's about eliminating dependency. Every time you can solve your own problem, you move faster. You don't wait for developer availability. You don't negotiate scope. You don't compromise because someone else doesn't understand the nuance. This is why I believe the autocoder stack isn't just a productivity tool. It's a competitive advantage. Small teams that can rapidly prototype, test, and deploy internal tools will outmaneuver larger competitors who are stuck in traditional development cycles. But, and here's my final warning, this only works if you respect the technology without worshiping it. Claude 3.7 is not AGI. It's not conscious. It's not infallible. It's a remarkably capable tool that amplifies your abilities. Treat it like a brilliant but inexperienced junior developer. Trust but verify. Delegate but review. Accelerate but don't autopilot. The teams that win with this stack are the ones who combine human judgment with AI capability. They use Claude for the parts that AI does well, generating code, remembering syntax, connecting APIs, debugging errors. But they keep human judgment for the parts that matter most, defining requirements, evaluating trade-offs, understanding users, making strategic decisions. So here's your action plan if you want to start building with the autocoder stack. Step 1. Download Cursor. It's free to start. The Pro subscription at $20 per month is worth it once you're building seriously. Step 2. Set Claude 3.7 Sonnet as your default model. It's the best balance of capability and speed for development work. Step 3. Before building anything, create your .cursor rules file. Spend 30 minutes defining how you want code generated in your project. Step 4. Pick one internal tool your team needs. Not your most ambitious project. Something simple but valuable. A dashboard, a workflow automation, a data integration. Step 5. Write detailed specifications before you start prompting. What exactly should this do? What data does it use? Who uses it? What happens on errors? The more precise, the better. Step 6. Build in small increments. One feature, test, verify, repeat. Never generate more than you can evaluate. If you follow this framework, you will ship something useful in your first week. Not because you became a developer overnight, but because you learned to collaborate with a very capable AI partner. All right, we've covered a lot of ground. Let me leave you with this thought. 5 years ago, building internal tools required either deep technical skills or deep pockets. Today, it requires clarity of thought and willingness to learn a new workflow. The barrier isn't code anymore. The barrier is ambiguity. Learn to be precise. Learn to describe exactly what you need. Learn to treat AI as a partner, not a replacement. And you'll be building things you never thought possible. If this perspective on AI-assisted building resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. I'm going deep on the tools and frameworks that let small teams compete with giants. Next video, I'm breaking down the specific prompting patterns that separate AI-assisted projects that ship from ones that stay stuck in development hell forever. It's more tactical than today. Exact prompts, exact workflows, exact outcomes. See you there.